Hey guys, Keith Keller, Melbourne, Australia, and we have a monster edition of Virtually Unlimited TV. It's a brand new show that I've started, and we're on our third show now. And the basic idea is that we can do virtually anything online, and so our lives are virtually unlimited. I thought that was pretty clever. So we're doing this show on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on Twitter. So please jump in wherever you are, make some comments. We're going to have lots of great guests today talking about the idea of what are the best social media sites for networking. What's your favorite? What do you like? What's working for you? We're going to ask our guests, every guest gets a turn, and we're going to ask them two questions. What is your favorite networking site? And secondly, and this is the question that really interests me, how much of your networking is local and how much of your networking is global? And we're going to really have a bit of fun with that. This particular show is going live on LinkedIn, which I'm very excited about now. This is my third show on LinkedIn Live. So hello to everyone watching on LinkedIn. We're going to send it to Periscope, which actually still does work. And we're actually going to talk a lot about Twitter Spaces, which is the brand new thing, the Clubhouse killer, I'm calling it. Can I say that? I'm going to call it the Clubhouse killer. So Twitter Spaces is thumping it, and Samantha is going to talk a lot about that, Samantha from Canada. We've got a really great global team. I'm going to introduce them throughout the course of the show. But I want to start with Jane Jackson in Sydney, because she is a LinkedIn aficionado. She loves it. We're on LinkedIn, and I thought it would be a very good idea to start the show with Jane. So tell us, Jane, why you love LinkedIn and how it works for you in the context of what you do there.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Hi, Eileen and Samantha and Debbie and Natasha, and thank you so much, Keith, for inviting me today. This is such a good topic to discuss because all of us really enjoy our favorite platforms. I'm a career management coach and I work within the corporate space, and so LinkedIn being a professional networking site, and how it originated was really for job seekers. This is why I've been using LinkedIn since about 2005. And honestly, it's my favorite platform for networking because it works so well. This is where I find my clients. This is where my clients find me. And it's a global platform that enables us. You know, in the old days, it used to be 6 degrees of separation. Now I found with LinkedIn, it's 2 or 3 degrees of separation. Yeah, okay. So it makes it very easy to find people. And so I focus on helping people through the emotional roller coaster of career change or redundancy and layoffs to help them gain the confidence and clarity to be able to reinvent their careers and secure their next job.
That's great. Well, with that context, that's a really great introduction into why LinkedIn is a great platform. While we're in the 15 to 20 minutes that we were bantering beforehand, you found everyone LinkedIn, sent them an invitation, and now we're mates, right? That's how easy it is, right? You just punch in their name.
What we'll need to do is to get to know each other a little bit more over time as well. And being on LinkedIn Live is so good because we can listen to each other, we can see each other. I'm in Sydney, you're in Melbourne, everyone else is in Canada or the US, and so we've got this global team together this morning, and it's going to be
unbelievable,
fun,
isn't it? Now, with that in mind, I'm going to ask everyone in the room what their favorite site is and why. So I want to start that particular process with Samantha in Alberta, Canada, for a couple of reasons. One is she loves Twitter Spaces, and I want everyone to get their head around this. This is the new kid on the block, what I'm calling the Clubhouse killer. Clubhouse, everyone's heard of Clubhouse, and maybe we've tried it. If you had an iPhone, you were one of the lucky ones. If you're on Android, you're probably like me and you can't be bothered, because they just took too long to get there. So Samantha, tell us about what your favorite site is and why you love Twitter Spaces. You're on mute there.
Thanks for having me on today. I'm really excited about it. Yeah, new kid on the block, Twitter Spaces. For any of you who don't know what Clubhouse is or Twitter Spaces, it's social audio. So it's essentially audio conferencing, so kind of like a Zoom, just with no video. So what we love about it, you don't have to get dressed up. You can be anywhere, anytime in your car, having an audio conference with anyone. I like to call it authentic audio because it's live. And it's very intense and very direct. What I love about Twitter Spaces, which was a lot of people love, is what you get is this direct conversation where all of the things that would get in the way before don't get in the way anymore. So what happens is when we're in social audio, we strip away gender, culture, class, finance, skin color, clothing, custom, geographic. And you can just jump on anytime. In fact, this is the new replacement of radio, because even in the car, people are listening in on live conversations while they're driving. What's cool about the social audio is you get to speak to very knowledgeable people right there in the room. So Clubhouse has been part of how they got big, was they got Elon Musk to come in, and a 19-year-old from India could be next door to him and ask him a question. And so the cool thing about social audio is it's open. It's an open for many people, and the networking is crazy. Like I just jumped onto Twitter kind of February-ish, and because what I love about Twitter is the thought exchange. As a female and as someone who's on a commercial farm, I sometimes find there's a lack of places for women like me to intellectually engage. And that's what I like about Twitter. It's just thought exchange. And then Twitter Spaces came out, and I got approved as a beta host to try it out in the early stages. So I'm an early adopter and quite seasoned in it. And I have met the amazing people like Bobby Umar, who has 440,000 followers from Twitter, jumped in about a little over a month ago, and he wanted to get his bearings straight, get taught about it. And myself and two other seasoned Twitter Space people came up and helped him. And next thing you know, he's naming us on his LinkedIn account. He has 40,000 people on his LinkedIn account, and he's naming us as top Twitter Spaces experts. He's from Toronto. I've never met him before. We met in an audio room, and next thing you know, we're the networking. He DMs, and he ran a space last week on thought leadership. I came into the room, and right away he brought me up as co-host, and I'm sitting there as a co-host, which gives me an opportunity. From that show, from those shows like that, I probably get speaking engagement requests about every other day or every third day. Most of them are pro bono right now, or just helping people, businesses are really starting to queue in. And so I'm not going to take up all the time because I'm super excited and tell you the opportunities are crazy. Keith, did you want me to go into the global part, or that's later?
No, I've got a second question. That's a very good point. A big hello to the Dr. Author. Go Twitter Spaces. Great connecting. And this is exactly what I love about live streaming. We have people on the call who can comment. Thank you so much for that comment. And I'm going to run the room about the first question, which is, what is your favorite site? Let's bring Eileen in from Barrie, Canada. Let's see what happens there. Eileen, tell us a little bit about what your experience is.
One, what a great group of people, women, and yourself, obviously, Kate. Thank you for having me. So I have two perspectives. From a consulting technology perspective, I prefer LinkedIn because you're not chasing anything. All you're doing is upgrading yourself, keeping it steady with whatever is in trend right now. And then I have headhunters just search me out and find me. I don't really have to do very much on LinkedIn for a consulting technology perspective. From a coaching perspective and therapy, I'm trying out Twitter a little bit more. I've been on it for quite some time, but the last 2 months, really, I've just grown my account. So working that out to see, and then trying to look for new avenues for the coaching component of it.
Yeah. Okay. So you quite like both Twitter.
Yeah, and I find very specific though. For technology, I really find if I want networking, I've done the work. I just upgrade my resume whenever I need to, and it's a go. And then people just headhunters find me. I have 2 or 3 requests a day for jobs. But with Twitter is a little bit different with coaching. People who want coaching, they don't really want to come in and they don't want to come into. If someone's looking for a coach, they're not going to be going to LinkedIn necessarily. I'm not saying no, unless someone has that experience. I'd love to know about it. But if they do, I'd love to know how that's working out for them, because I think someone's looking for a coach, they're going to look elsewhere, you know?
I want to just bring Jane quickly in to talk about the headhunting component, because I know this is a very key point as to why you love LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a fantastic way to get known if you want to position yourself as a thought leader, if you're looking for a new career change. Would that be correct? Is headhunting a key component on LinkedIn? You're muted there.
There we go. That's better.
There you go.
Yes. 93% of recruiters and hiring managers go to LinkedIn to source for candidates as their first point of contact. So if you are a job seeker, then obviously you need to have a very strong profile on LinkedIn, because it's so easy to be able to search for specific skill sets and job titles and industries and businesses on LinkedIn. That's the beauty of it. So say if someone was looking for an operations manager within logistics as an industry, then they could type in those keywords and they'll be able to find people who fit that bill. So yes, I mean, if you're a headhunter, then definitely you will be on LinkedIn.
Yep, no worries. That's what I thought. So I wanted to clarify that. I want to bring Natasha in from LA. A big hello to my mate, Natasha in LA. We're doing a Facebook takeover next week. It's really exciting. Never done one of them. So Natasha, tell us what your favorite site is. It might be Twitter, it might be LinkedIn, it might be Snapchat, because I know you love Snapchat and Bitmojis. But tell us what your favorite site is and how do you use it?
Thanks, Keith, and thanks again for having me as part of this panel. I really love Twitter. It really hasn't waned for me, and I thought about it some today before I came on. One of the reasons why I love Twitter so much is it's just a space where I feel really comfortable talking with my audiences. I have different relationships that I'm building. So it's based on my interest in various topics. One of them is the creative economy. The other is inclusion and funding for the arts. Emerging entertainment is one of my largest interests. And then finally, my own career as a creative. So I actually have 4 different accounts on Twitter. I decided a few years back to separate it into those silos so that I could start to build a circle of communication with my audience around those topics. And it's worked really well for me in that I've been able to connect with people on those particular topics, either individually or as a complete circle. And then that builds, and as people become perhaps more interested in who I am, they'll come back to my main account at Natasha Young on Twitter and connect with me personally and go to my About Me page. And so it's really like almost like a Twitter funnel into, coming right back to myself. I really enjoy the conversations that I have with people. I feel that it's very engaging for me. I've had, and our relationship is a perfect example of that. We actually met on Twitter 11 years ago. Is it 11 or 10? Yeah. No, is it 10? Yes, 10 years ago this year. So, this is a testament to the power of Twitter and building real relationships over time that really turn into something extraordinary like this. Now we're going to be hosting our first Facebook takeover. So
let me pick up on that. So 10 years ago, and this is very much my brand. 10 years ago, Natasha contacted me. And I said, hello, how you doing? How's LA today? Is it sunny? I wouldn't mind going there one day. I will. And she goes, wow, a dude from Melbourne, Australia just, says hello. Not many people do this. So we started a friendship, and I recommended a site called Paperly, which seems like an eternity ago. It is a decade ago. She won an award for that. She won a Shorty Award for her Paperly account called the Young Hollywood Blast, which is really, really powerful for the creatives in the world, especially in Hollywood. And then she did an MBA. She's just finished an MBA. And I'm so proud of her. She's like my best friend in the whole world. And I'm so proud. I shouldn't say best friend because I've got like 6 best friends right on now. I don't want to sort of pick favorites. But, here's an example of someone in that I met 10 years ago who we just had a bit of a chat. We threw our ideas around, and it's really changed your life, hasn't it?
Absolutely,
again.
Keith.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. It has changed my life. As you mentioned, I applied to graduate school mainly because of the encouragement that I got from starting these different initiatives. As you mentioned, starting the Paperly, and it took off. We actually won 2 Shorty awards, and that was, back to back. And then I said, you know what, this is heading in a really fun and interesting direction, one that I hadn't planned. And it all started with our conversation.
Yeah.
Just,
Well,
hey,
let me
how you
pick up
doing?
on what's next. You said that you're not really that familiar with Clubhouse, and I'm guessing
Yeah.
Twitter Spaces. Do you see the point? Can you see that this might be a big hot button coming up, a big sort of hot topic that people need to jump on? Have you heard about it? Are you interested in it?
I have. I'm personally interested in Twitter Spaces. I think more because Clubhouse was so exclusive at the beginning. I couldn't even learn anything about it. It was just kind of closed off to anybody who was an Android user, I believe. And so I
Yeah.
didn't really understand how it worked. But Twitter, it felt more inclusive, and it felt like it was something I could get into. I'm really interested in seeing how Twitter Spaces connects up with live streaming. That's like sort of my big question mark right now that I want to figure out.
I want to tease this out. This I haven't yet worked out how to do this. Samantha knows how to do this, or knows that it can be done. Haps, which I know you love, can be sent to Twitter Spaces. I'm still working. I haven't even told you this. Haps, which is haps.tv, which is an alternative to StreamYard, has found a way. One person, I'll mention this in a minute. I'll send it back to Samantha. But haps.tv has found a way to send the video file to Periscope and YouTube and the audio file to Twitter Spaces. I'm still trying to get my head around that. Like, I only found this out yesterday. I was DMing Peter, the tech dude there. We're still trying to work this out. But that's how fast this stuff moves. You've thought, I want to find a way to get live streaming in the audio and link it with my video. Someone's working on that.
Absolutely. They have, it's in beta, which is, like, I think you mentioned that, and they are just moving at such a rapid pace, and, picking up on, what does the audience want? How can we bring that to them? And it's been an absolute blast to be part of this platform over the last several months. I think you had told me about it back in December of 2020. And then I started becoming more active or trying it out in February. And since then, it's just been, I was live streaming up to 3 times a week at one point. I had to take a short hiatus because it is very...
You were doing it almost every day, weren't you?
It was almost every day. It was a lot, but I learned so much from the experience of Haps. And, I'd have to add that to one of my favorite new places to network, because the type of relationships you can build are instantaneous and they're very authentic. The people that are there really want to help you. They're very friendly, open, and you can get invited onto broadcasts, and it's just mind-blowing what is possible on there, and all the different type of creative energies that are there, authors, artists, digital artists. Yeah. People who cook.
It's very big on the digital community, the creative community, isn't it?
Sorry, what was the question?
It's very big for the creative community, what you're now calling the creative economy. It's very huge for that. Well, hold that thought, and Samantha, hold that thought about mentioning Haps, because I'm still trying to get my head around this. And apologies for all the jargon. These sites you may not even have heard of, but we've been playing the game. And we've been having a lot of fun. I want to bring my friend Gail in from LA. She's also a good mate of Natasha. Tell us, Gail, what you think your favourite site is, and why do you love it, and how are you using it?
Well, first of all, I want to be sorry. I want to say I'm sorry for being late, but I'm on my laptop and I couldn't see the button that says enter the room because it was cut off by the size of my screen. How crazy is that? So please forgive me. When I joined Facebook and Twitter in 2009, people laughed at us. It was so ridiculous. So I mean, I remember going to seminars and packed seminars, people trying to explain what Twitter was, and people saying, I'm not letting people see who my friends are. That's not going to happen. I would never join this. But now I'm realizing by listening to Jane and Samantha and Eileen and Natasha that I think what's happened to social media, I think it's in its teenage years, and the fact that it's now become an umbrella phrase for actual social media, for social audio, for social work, and for social neighborhoods, which is super hyper local.
Too. I mean, social justice too. I mean, if you want, once we find out, and Samantha's going to come back on the show, but Samantha's got a big following in Africa, and she's in Alberta. I mean, it's a long way away, but you can get a lot done. You can get a lot done in the sort of global sphere. I'm going to come back to that question in a minute. Yeah. Thank you, Philip. A very insightful session. So we've got some comments coming in from around the world. Let us know where you're calling in from. He's actually commenting on YouTube, as you can see there. So which of the two, or which of the sites? Now
that I have so many choices, it's really about the right tool for the right time.
Good idea.
When it comes to hardcore business, where I'm in a landscape where I know no one, I go to LinkedIn, but I find myself, I don't know, in the last year or so, I'm networking with myself, especially on Facebook. I'm working on a project. I'm working on a project right now where I need someone to open a door for me. Or at least, well, I know where the door is. I just can't get in by myself. And I find that I'm networking with 40, 50, 60 of the people that I already know on Facebook, which now gives me the opportunity to have a choice of which one of these people do I want to be represented by in opening that door for me, who are going to take me personally, who are going to understand my project. And I hooked up with somebody I know yesterday, sent him the material, and it's on the way over to this huge mega media company.
Wow.
Yeah. I haven't told you about it, but I will some night.
No, things are moving so fast, we don't even get a chance now to find out what everyone's doing.
But it's all, everyone. The great part about the whole thing is it's always the right tool for the right time. Because if you actually believe in that phase, that means everything that you're doing is good for you then.
Yeah, okay. So
because it can be so confusing. And the first thing that collapses when you're confused is your self-confidence.
Yeah. But big hello to Wendy, my mate Wendy. That's great. LinkedIn is my favorite one. Find it excellent for networking and learning. And here she is listening on LinkedIn Live, a LinkedIn Live event. So that's one for Jane. Now I'm going to bring in Deb from Connecticut. She was originally on some of our shows in Austria, but now she's in back at home in Connecticut. Tell us what you think, Deb. What do you think the best tool for the best job is for you personally? Oh, we got you on mute again. That's a common theme. I'll get you. You're muted there, Deb. My unmute button isn't working. You're muted, Deb. You better unmute yourself.
Of course, I did a slow one. Sorry about that. Okay. Well, it's a pleasure to meet everybody here on the show, and we really have a very diverse group of people who are doing a lot of different and unique things, and that's really awesome. For me, I am a digital marketing consultant and an SEO and a marketer by nature. And I'm going to really date myself here, but I've been on the web since '95. So that really shows you where I've done. And when we started getting into social media, and LinkedIn obviously was the first one to kind of grab onto for a professional profile, for a business profile. When it came to starting to really network with my peers Twitter has been an amazing platform for that. My favorite part about the Twitter platform was getting to know people through actual Twitter chats. And
oh wow, Twitter chats, yeah.
Twitter chat sounds really old and all of that, but the benefit of it was that there is like-minded interest. There's a lot of people within your industry, your community that are participating in some of these really high-profile chats that have been on a while. Met a lot of great people that way. And one of the things that I tend to do when I've met, and I think even with Keith and I, was to have an opportunity for a meet and greet session. And I've done that quite a bit. And one of my favorite things is saying, hey, let's grab a virtual cup of coffee together and get on, on a Skype chat, on GChat, whatever is, the easiest, and have a conversation that way. So it is a form of networking, and I've flourished that more through Twitter than I have with LinkedIn. But again, back to it all, that is for my profession. When it comes to clients, when I hear other people talking, we want to pick the best outlet for which our audience is residing. And I think that was really said well at the very beginning by Jane, because when we're talking about LinkedIn, we can really hone in on the persona, the target audience, and who we want to reach. And that's extremely valuable. So I would put it up for Twitter is my favorite right now. LinkedIn, I've been on forever. And it's great to learn more about this because the technology is moving and moving quickly.
Yeah, well, let me pick up on this. There's a couple of things going on there. The first thing is that we talked about Twitter chats, which is an old idea now, but still works. And the basic premise of a Twitter chat is that, say, for instance, this session, which is a live stream, which is on 10 o'clock on a Thursday for me, 10 a.m. Thursday morning for me, 8 p.m. Eastern for the eastern states of the US and Canada. Instead of that being a video, it's simply a chat with a hashtag, say virtually unlimited TV. And everyone can ask a question. They're very frenetic. I personally don't like them, but they're very frenetic and they're only chat. So you just say, hey guys, Keith here. We're starting a Twitter chat. Here's the first question. What's your favorite networking site? And then everyone in the world goes, oh, I love LinkedIn, bang, bang, bang. And it's like, you blow your head off trying to keep up. Anyway, they're very cool. And the idea there, to set the scene, is that you only set aside an hour of time, and then once a week you tell your tribe, I'm going to be on a Twitter chat at 10 o'clock next Thursday. If you've got a question, come to me then. Don't DM me at 10 at night or 4 in the morning or whatever time it is in your town. I'm only going to be available at 10 o'clock on a Wednesday or Thursday, and it's a way of segmenting your tribe so that you can get maximum bang for your buck in terms of time. A lot of my friends do them, but I'm going to throw to Samantha to pick up on the Twitter Spaces version, because I was thinking recently, and this is a great segue, I'm thinking that Twitter Spaces will now take the place of Twitter chats, because I couldn't really get my head around Twitter chats because it was just a chat, it was just people typing on Twitter. Whereas at least with Twitter Spaces, you can hear them. Would you agree, Samantha? Do you think that Twitter Spaces might take the place of what Twitter chats were? Did you ever do Twitter chats?
Yeah, I think it already is, because it's not uncommon, like even in the DMs, a couple of us might be talking about something. We're like, this would be a really good Twitter space right now. And sometimes like, let's get on right now. And so one of us just opens a room up and a bunch of us jump on. And if you've got a pretty good following, next thing you know, 20 people are talking about it, or 50 or 100. And so it's instant. I mean, I like to do impromptus. Like I'm like, I got a few hours, and I'll just open up a space. I sometimes run a Twitter space called Business Side Hustles and Business Startup and Side Hustles Q&A. And I have a pretty strong business background because I'm a tax expert by first trade, spent my first life doing that, 7,500 tax returns. I learned a lot about business and about any type of organization there is and every type of person there is. And so I literally just open it up. In 3 hours, they get free business advice for 3 hours. And it's sort of like a chat. And some of the minds that come on there, they'll just start helping out. Like one time, a guy named Mo from Africa, who's really well thought, got a great business mind, jumps up and he's like, oh, it was something I didn't know a ton about. And he jumped in, and next thing you know, we're co-hosting it. And he's like, I'm in my thing. And I'm like, now we're super tight. And he'll ask me to be on his show and I'll be on his. And so, or I'll be, we switch it back and forth. And yeah.
Could you see of doing a Twitter chat other than a Twitter space? Is there any point anymore now that we have Twitter spaces?
I mean, some people prefer the written form. I prefer speaking generally. I can write. It's rather laborious for me. Yeah. I have done Twitter chats, and it can be pretty fun because, if you're sitting in the living room and your family's around, you can be chatting up with people in a Twitter chat, but on audio, I have to be in a kind of a private space or a space where there's no one else. So there's definitely a space still, a place for chats. And you're always going to have those people who just aren't really comfortable with social audio. So at this point, but I think that's changing a lot.
Well, let's pick up on this. I want to mention a couple of things just for the three people in the room that might think that Twitter chats are better. I'm joking to make a point, but the actual essence, the essence is that a lot of people don't like the sound of their voice. And guess what? Twitter has fixed that. Twitter has an app, an extension to the Twitter Spaces where you can EQ your voice. This is amazing. They only invented this last week. So, when you're on something and, oh, that's not me. I don't sound like that. I've got such as high pitch. Oh, yuck. So you can go into Twitter Spaces and you can tune your voice. You can EQ your own voice so that it actually sounds, that the basic premise is that you can actually sound exactly like what you think you sound like in your head, because you're always more bassy in your head than when it takes you a while to get used to your own voice. It can also be used to auto-tune, so you could sound like Cher if you wanted to, but or Cher, depending on who you talk to. But you could do it funny and funky ways. But the main idea is that Twitter Spaces is already ahead of you. If you don't want to do Twitter Spaces because you can't stand the sound of your voice, we fixed that. I don't work for Twitter, but they fixed it. So, but why don't we have this discussion right now? Well, how does Twitter Spaces compare to Clubhouse? I haven't tried either. I can tell you for sure I'm not trying Clubhouse. I'm just having a moral objection to the iPhone-only model. I just have a moral objection to that. I'm just letting you know that. I'm never trying it. But I am quite open to trying Twitter Spaces because I'm the Twitter dude. So, Samantha, have you tried both? And can we do a bit of a wrap around what people think of both?
Yeah, I was one of the early adopters on Clubhouse because I'm iOS, so I got a special invite. It is open to Android now. I was on it quite a bit when it started because I'm one of those people who likes to learn all the new tech when it comes out and understand how it's going to work. It's good. It was really good to begin with, especially because it was right when COVID started. And so you had all these brilliant minds who were just trying to figure out another platform, another way to get their voice out, especially when everything was canceled. So a lot of great free live events people were running. And so the promotion was amazing. For me, it's more the UX or the user experience that I don't love from Clubhouse. The way the format is you have all the speakers at the top. So when you go onto your mobile device, you have all the speakers at the top. And then in the middle, you have all the friends of the speakers. And then at the bottom, it's the listeners. And sorry, Clubhouse, but I feel like I'm in high school again, like all the popular people and then the outliers of the popular people and then all the unpopular people. And so it sounds kind of like it shouldn't be a thing, but it is. And so I feel like I'm back in high school again, all over again. The feel is a little different on Clubhouse. Also, Twitter Spaces, what I love about it is the speakers and the listeners are all one part of one platform. The speakers are at the top. The listeners, they're pretty smart. They feed your ego, so you're always at the top. And if you're a speaker, you're usually like right next to like the co-host or the host. So you think pretty good of yourself. And what they've done strategically is anyone that's in your network, they will put you next to them in the social audio platform.
Wow.
Your friends.
Wow.
it's been tested with the AI. So you feel like you're really sitting next to your friend in Africa or the Netherlands. Like if you and I were in there, because we know each other really well, our pictures would show up right beside each other and we'll feel like we're having coffee right next to each other. So the other cool thing about Twitter Spaces that you can't do in Clubhouse, and this is the thing that all you business people need to really think about. You can, in the social audio room, you can do a slideshow. We call them nested tweets. You can nest a tweet. You can run your own slideshow, which everyone can look at in the room while they're there with you, and they can bookmark it for later, or they can act on it. So if you've got a CTA in there or anything like that, or it's amazing. Like for businesses, if you want instant feedback, pardon?
Where does it show up?
So anyone who's a speaker can nest something into the nested into the top of the social audio room. So anything that you've ever tweeted, you can copy the bookmark and then just tell it to post to the nest on the top, and then people can slide through them. So when I'm speaking, if I've written an article on something on Twitter, I'll be like, oh, I wrote about it in this article 2 months ago, and then I just nest it in the top, and next thing you know, people are retweeting it. So my old content is relevant. And people will comment it on again. So it'll take my old content and move it to the front because now it's recent. But if you're looking at beta testing or instant user feedback, you can show them the product or link to something right in the room, and they can give you real-time feedback right there. So, I mean, you don't even have to hire these crazy expensive marketing companies to do some of this stuff and wait months for the reply, when you literally could just put a picture up or some pictures or some video and then ask your users right there what they think.
Wow. Now let's pick up on this. This is brilliant. So we've now got a really quite lovely UX there and a really good use case. I want to bring Jane in because she's used Clubhouse. What was the value proposition for Clubhouse, and have you tried Twitter Spaces, or does it sound like it might be an interesting thing to try?
Well, first of all, listening to Samantha, wow. I'm very excited to give Twitter Spaces a try, because I was on the audio platform, Clubhouse, when it first started, because there was so much buzz about it and it was very exciting. And so I was given the opportunity at the beginning to create my own club. So I had my own club and I had a regular Clubhouse chat, and we had some really good chats there. But one thing that I found, and I don't know if everyone else had the same experience, but what I found was that because it was so popular with everyone who had, an iOS device, I had many people who would hop on and want to discuss, and mine was purely to do with careers and career transition, but there were people who were hopping on and they would discuss, they would ask a question about careers, but it wasn't really a question, and then they'd launch into marketing their own business. And,
that's right.
And that just kept happening. And I thought,
it becomes a pitch fest after a while, doesn't it? It becomes a pitch fest.
That's what it came to be for me. And I thought, this is really silly, because it was very hard to monitor. And even when you have moderators was a huge thing for a while on Clubhouse as well, getting the right moderator, the moderator being able to moderate the people effectively. And it was just, I found it all very argy-bargy, and it wasn't for me. And it was wonderful, to be with, and Samantha, you mentioned Bobby Umar, who was amazing. And I was so excited to be part of, his group, and we had all of these regular sessions. But I found that for me, with my career transition clients and career management clients, really my platform is LinkedIn. So I pulled away from Clubhouse, and it was exciting for a while, but it just wasn't for me. And one of us was saying, really find the right platform for your audience.
And the right
my
platform for the right time
is LinkedIn. However, you might sway me, Samantha, because Twitter Spaces sounds so good, and I don't know anything about Twitter Spaces, but I'm learning today, and I'd love to find out more, because it sounds like this could be a goer.
Well,
you go, Samantha. You want to pick up on that?
Yeah, well, if any of you want to give it a go, I'm definitely up for it. I do this quite often. I will do an orientation, so book a time with me, and I will jump on with you and teach you the ropes. I do it a lot. In fact, anyone who was a beta host approved will do that for people. So I can go on, we can launch something, and we run a test space, and then you can just try it all out, and I can teach you about it and what you might want to do for next time. So I love doing it, and it's a lot of fun. So I'm pretty sure you're gonna love it. So the cool thing about it, is like with Clubhouse, you couldn't link it into any of your content. So if you, at the beginning, you couldn't even DM anyone. You had to DM them through like Instagram or something else. Yeah. Whereas with Twitter, what's the other cool thing about it is while you're in a space, you have inside the app, you can DM. So people can ask me questions while I'm hosting or co-hosting, and then I can reply. Or sometimes someone wants to speak, and I'll be like, "Hey, can you just let me know what you want to talk about?" Also, what you said about Clubhouse, there's a lot of self-promotion going on. And Twitter, it's the opposite. What you'll find sometimes is just a little bit of personal oversharing. And so depending on the space, and I can teach you, you probably know how to do it. I saw somebody laughing in there. So I get on it because it's not good for your audience if people are personally oversharing. So there's just some technique that you learn how to facilitate. Just what I do when someone starts to get oversharing a bit, I will just I'll jump in, validate them, thank them for their contribution, and then just let them know that there's other people who are ready to speak. And that has really helped. And I teach quite a few people how to do that, because the last thing you want is someone to go on for a very long time about something that's irrelevant to the space or not helpful.
Yeah. So, in fact, you've shared quite a lot of really good tips about how to make a space very, very powerful. One of which is, know your place, be vulnerable, but also respect other people. Yeah.
Yeah, on my Twitter timeline, just because I've done so many Twitter spaces, people are always asking me for help. So now a lot of my tweets are about how to be a good space host, what you can do. It has a lot with public speaking. And I was sort of thinking about starting a public speaking career. I'm pivoting right now, like a lot of everyone else. And my kids are getting older. My youngest is going to be 20 tomorrow. And I have gotten a lot more confidence, a lot more practice, getting speaking engagements. I'm speaking at an women's empower event virtually through Florida at the end of September. I was offered a TED Talk in September, although that event was canceled. So the opportunities, when people hear you, they feel connected to you. And it's so personal. And what I find is when I've listened to someone in social audio, what I call authentic audio, then when they read your tweets or your content, there's going to be long form coming to Twitter. So all you people on LinkedIn who love your long form, that's coming to Twitter. So what I find that when I read people's content, I hear their voice now. I'll even pause the way they do or influx the way they do. And so that personal connection is amazing. Like you don't get that anywhere else.
I really want to pick up on this idea of authentic content. That is such a powerful phrase. So you're saying that by virtue of the fact that you can hear people, you just get a very strong sense of what they're doing and a much deeper connection. Is that where you're sort of going with that?
Well, yeah, and it's live, so you can't rehearse it. It's not scripted. It's very organic. So that's what I love about it, and you can run it all different formats. You can run a traditional conference style where you just have a couple people on a panel. I've been to those, and it's closed to anybody else. Or you can run it with an open speak. Like tomorrow, I'm going to be running one. I'm going to jump the gun on you on a question. So I got a really big role offer from Twitter Spaces from someone who heard me in the spaces and I'm doing some work with the digital humanitarian in Africa, and it's about reshaping conversations in Africa. And we're running a regular show on Thursdays. We started our test space last Thursday, and we had up to 120 people at our peak. And that is journalists, politicians, people who are, anywhere in Africa, up in the hills. Everyone is in one room. It doesn't matter your status, doesn't matter your education. And we're all in the room talking about how we can have better conversations and inspiring conversations about Africa, and it's happening live and it's organic. So people can come up to the stage and ask a question to anyone on the panel. And some of these people on the panel have, a couple 100,000 followers, and anyone can come and ask a question, and it's just a live conversation. So it's authentic.
Well, you give me a great segue there, Deb. Samantha, if you're okay, I might run the room with that second question. Give everyone a chance to pick up on that. We've asked the question, what's the best social network? But what about this idea? The idea that now that we can network online, do you find that you're still networking as much in person or in your town? or do you find that the global experience is a much more interesting one or much more beneficial? So let's pick someone. Maybe I'll go back to Gail, because Gail has got some really interesting thoughts on this idea, and we're actually going to, I'll tell you about that in a minute. We're going to actually, I said I'm driving a racing car.
No.
There's Gail.
Yes.
So Gail, tell me this.
What?
Do you still love networking in person, but do you find that now that we're forced to network online, are you still networking with people in your town, or are you broadening it out to network more globally?
No, well, I do work with the UK, but that's
Okay.
work as opposed to discovering new contacts to build my brand. And I figured this out when I was writing my book. When you sit there at your keyboard and start to talk to people, imagine you're Beethoven. Play that keyboard like it's actually a keyboard and write in your own authentic voice, even if you have to make up your own punctuation, because you're so in other words, if you are so like me, so used to networking in person where you can tell a joke or something like that, just something that's kind of personal. That to me, that is the best way to take what's not a great situation for people like me who cannot be one-on-one with a heartbeat. I find myself sometimes when I'm doing that, I actually close my eyes and I'm just typing. I type really fast. So I just go right through the whole thing.
The answer to that question is that you still would prefer to network in person, but you are adjusting to the sort of possibilities like Beethoven, and that you still do a little. I want to run the room, give everyone a turn on this, but what I want to do is, we've had many chats on this, and we've got a show coming up in 2 weeks. I want to prep this, where we're really going to have a lot of fun with this idea. If you're the sort of person that's lamenting the fact that we can't do this face-to-face networking event, and you used to do it, in 2 weeks from today, we're actually going to run a show called Confessions of a 90s Networker. The laptop was invented in 1992. The CD player was invented in 1982, and it was $2,000 then, which is the equivalent of about $5,000 right in today's money. So we're going to actually have a bit of fun with that. Personally, I don't miss face-to-face networking at all, not in the slightest. I don't miss it at all.
Yeah.
But I do know that some people do. But why don't we run the room? Deb, you've been waiting patiently there. Do you find yourself networking more globally now, or do you still like to network locally online? Again, you're muted there, Deb.
There we go. No, it's definitely online. Either whether I've been here or I've been in Vienna, it's definitely the community is the online community, especially with the COVID. I mean, there aren't people really getting out and going into big events. And if they are, that's what they're doing. So for me, I personally have enjoyed much more networking online, because there's a freedom to, like you said, connect with people. Samantha, you were discussing Africa. One of my dearest friends in marketing is in Africa, in Uganda. So I would have never had that opportunity to meet had it not been the online spaces that you're talking about. So definitely I'm all online with you, Keith. So that's my take on that one.
Okay. What about you, Natasha? Do you find that you're networking still locally but online, or are you trying to tap into a sort of a more global audience? You've taken yourself off mute there. That's good. What do you think?
I'm sorry, I missed part of the beginning of the question, but I think it's related to the second question about where my network is, global or local.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have been global for quite some time, and back again to when we met 10 years ago, Australia, California, quite a distance, but it hasn't felt that far away. And so since then, I've been thinking globally and connecting with my audience at the Young Hollywood Blast. Thank you for mentioning that earlier. They are everywhere in the world. They're in England, they're in Russia, they're in Africa. There's people from all over the globe that are tapping into this space. And so I've been open to global networking. The thing that really kind of brought me back to networking more locally is going to my graduate school program so I could start connecting with more people in my local area who are part of the entertainment industry, LA, and who are in the industry and in different spaces. So that is still online. When people leave the program and travel to different places, we're still connecting via social media. So it's global again.
Let me pick up on that. Let me pick up on what you've just said there. So I'm very interested in this idea because I know that a lot of my friends, and we're in our 6th lockdown. It just got extended another week yesterday. We can't leave the house except for 3 or 4 different reasons. You've got to wear a mask. It's very, very cumbersome. And a lot of my friends are starting to really feel the pain. We've been in lockdown almost continuously for about 18 months. And I know that people are feeling that pain. But one thing I want to pick up on what you've just said there, Natasha, is when you go to a university and you meet a person and you really connect, that person might not eventually stay in your town and they might move. And then the online networking event, maybe we used to do this with email or picking up the phone, but the point is that with online networking, we can follow people, like Deb said, to Uganda. And I think the possibilities of all of these networking sites, and they all have their own flavor, is that we can really forge a global community of like-minded souls. And I don't network in my town. I just don't. But I have a large network, 58,000 people on Twitter and 12,000 people on LinkedIn. They're not all my mates, and we don't chat every day, but they're really deep conversations. And as Samantha knows and Eileen knows, I picked up the phone this week and did ring them. And I do that. So I want to pick up on what you've just said there, Natasha. So thanks for that. But what about you, Eileen? What do you think is your favourite mechanism? It does look like that's where the echo's coming from. I don't know what that picked up on as an echo. I'll work on that in a minute. But what do you think? Are you finding yourself networking more locally, even though it is online, or are you networking more globally because that's where the power is?
I don't close any channel, so I take advantage of every channel. I find that with, let's say, on Twitter, people are a little bit more comfortable because you don't know a lot about them, and that if they come to someone like me, I'm not a threat to expose them. I mean, this is something that is part of my, my role to keep your privacy. And I think there is a lot of comfort when people come to me on Twitter that they recognize that their privacy will not be compromised. I still do the same thing here. It doesn't change, but I think there's a bit of comfort for them. And I still do it like live, face to face. And we were just talking about the space. The space. I really enjoy it. I think I'm so excited for you to get on that. I think you really enjoy it. I really do. So long as it doesn't hijack it. I think you have to be a little bit cautious of who you allow to speak. That's been my experience. And some people run it really, really well, and some people have it hijacked, and then that doesn't go over. And having a topic, even a light topic, doesn't have to be something very serious. It can be very lighthearted. It could be just be, coffee with E on Wednesday or whatever it is, and meet new people across the world. But as long as someone doesn't hijack the conversation or goes awry and you know how to bring it back in, I think it does really, really well. And as Samantha was saying earlier, you hear the cadence and the vocals and the authenticity in someone's use. And that's my pinned tweet, right? Tweet authentically. That's my pinned tweet, to be honest with you. So I thought it is easier when you read someone's tweet, when you can put the vocals with it, and then you feel a lot more, just a closer community.
Yeah. Well, it definitely picks up on the global vibe because we've all got slightly different accents. We sort of speak in a very funny way down here. I sometimes ramp up the Aussiness. So I think everyone's had a turn on that. Have you had a turn on this, Samantha? I think I might throw back to you to mention what you're doing in Africa about this global idea. Are you finding the global thing really working for you?
Yeah, and I agree. Don't close any channels. And I'm not going to disconnect LinkedIn because I've been headhunted and sent quite a few great offers through LinkedIn as well. I have a strong portfolio on there. It's just right now Twitter's just where I'm at. And I feel excited about being there, and right now just being lit up about something and lit up about the community. But before you told me you were going to ask this question, so I went and checked because on Twitter you can tell where your audience is from. Yeah. And according to Twitter, it says that I have about 35% of my following comes from Africa, which is equivalent to about the United States. And interestingly enough, only 5.9% comes from Canada, and I'm from Canada. But my podcast, when I went and looked at my downloads, my podcast is about 20% Canada and 39% United States. So, depending on which platform you are on, it changes. And then also time changes matter a lot. I'm on Twitter quite a bit in the morning. And so that's a good time for South African time. So it also depends on what time of day. So if you're looking to tap into a particular market, you want to make sure that you're on around the same time that particular country is on a lot. And I just want to give you a quick networking tip when you're on a Twitter space with anyone. And this actually, it doesn't matter Twitter spaces, it's even LinkedIn if you're on a conference. We've all done these conferences and we meet people, and then right away on LinkedIn, we're all like connecting with each other. Hey, I just met you in this conference. Love to keep connecting. So a little tip that I've been doing is wherever you meet someone, put it in the DM. Say, it was really nice to meet you at, and then whatever it was. And then ideally, maybe just say something nice too, of course, like something you learned from them, or wasn't it great to learn this? Because 6 months down the road, you want to DM them or they DM you and you're like, I don't remember where I met you. I've met 1,000 people since then.
It gives you some context, doesn't it?
Right. So it saves both of us from having to re-guess. So if I reach out to them 6 months later, they'll see where we met, and it's just right away in there. Now, Twitter, you cannot search your DMs by keyword yet, but I do have a ticket into Twitter that I'm hoping is going to get changed. So you want to build a link, because really what you want to do is also put some keywords in. So if it's somebody you might want to contact about something particular, you could put a hashtag in there or put a keyword that just maybe you would know. So you kind of place it in there.
Very good.
And later you can search your DMs and be like, oh, this person I'm going to ask them to be, send them this offering or that offering, or I want to follow up on this. And if you put it in the DM, that will just help you leave a breadcrumb trail for yourself and the other person.
Wow. Let me pick up on what you just said there. A couple of things you could do if that's troublesome is that Twitter has this really cool feature called lists. It's completely underutilized by most people, but you can have actually up to 5,000 lists, virtually unlimited lists. So I have a list for most US cities, most Canadian cities. At one stage, and Gail knows this, I went and bought the URL California, because I was going to do a Californian tour. This is back before COVID. And so I went and started a list for all the US cities, because I figured, if I'm in Philadelphia today, I could just DM my friends, hey mate, I'm here, we're speaking at the Capitol Theatre, come along with free food, and I'll just have a bit of a rant. And obviously COVID hit and I didn't end up going, but Twitter Spaces is fills a little bit of that gap you're talking about. But we're coming up to the hour, and we've had a really, really dynamic chat. I want to give everyone a chance to introduce themselves, or at least put forward where they can be contacted further. So as each person is speaking, do you want to just put your details in the chat and I'll pick it up? You can put it as a private chat and I'll do it myself, but your Twitter handle or maybe your LinkedIn account, just punch it in the chat and I'll then put it forward while you're speaking. So I'll go with Natasha first because I've already done hers. So, Natasha, can you tell us where people can contact you, and what would you like them to know about you?
Well, thank you, Keith, and thank you again to everyone here today. I've learned so much from everything that's been shared today, and I am definitely heading into the Twitter Spaces orientation whenever that's happening. So you can reach me at Natasha Young, And that's everywhere across Twitter, Facebook, and I'll just say, Instagram too. And then YHB News is where you can find the Young Hollywood Blast.
Young Hollywood Blast News. Can you tell us about what that is?
Yes, it's actually in development. So I'm a news entrepreneur and digital journalist, and I've been developing this space with my community and my audience. And I'm still in that tinkering experimental phase. We're figuring out what it is. So I'd say for right now, it's definitely a community, and we're focused on really highlighting the works of emerging entertainment. It's very inclusive.
Wow.
And we're also very interested in helping them to fund their work and get the information and resources they need to get their work from funding to distribution. So
yeah, 'cause it's hard work being a creative, isn't it?
It's a lot of hard work, and it takes capital. So I'm trying to build that piece of it now, really get into the business tinkering and figure out how to sustain this and make it grow. So yes, YHB News, that handle, you can find us at Twitter. And on Facebook, we have Young Hollywood Blast. So I'll include all those links in the chat. I'm not sure if you'll have time to put them on.
Just a bit of a teaser there. Next week, we have a Facebook takeover. What that actually means
takeover.
is that I'm actually going to run StreamYard and send the file. I'm going to send the file to Natasha's Facebook page. That's what we call a Facebook takeover. So why don't you go and join the Facebook page for the Young Hollywood Blast? And we're going to have a lot of fun. She's got about 1,000 people in that community. So if you're really interested in the creative economy, we're going to have a Facebook takeover. Never done one of those before. You know what I'm like. I'm always trying new things. So Jane, you've got your details there. I'll punch them in now. Why don't you tell us how we can contact you and what you want to be known for and who you want to contact you? I know you're pretty happy to talk to anyone, but you're a busy person. How do we contact you, and what's the best way to contact you?
Obviously, it's going to be LinkedIn. If you just look for Jane Jackson Career Coach, you'll find me because I tend to pop up. As I mentioned before, I'm a career management coach, and I specialize in helping people to gain clarity and confidence in their careers. So I am on Twitter at Jane Career Coach, and Facebook as well, and Instagram. However, I mean, the important thing is that a platform like this, Keith, and thank you for inviting me and all of us to join you today, is it brings us all together globally, and we're able to provide a little bit of advice and support and guidance to people who need it. And first of all, decide on your platform. Where are your audience? Where do they tend to hang out the most? And then spend most of your time there. You asked earlier about, whether we should be networking globally or networking locally. And I found that because of LinkedIn being global and all of the digital platforms are global, even though I'm from Hong Kong originally and lived in Singapore for 18 years and London and San Francisco and Minnesota and now in Sydney, the network is very much global, and having an online platform, it enables us to stay in touch with everybody. And because of COVID, I'm in lockdown in Sydney until the 28th of August, yet again. And so Keith, you know how Keith and I met? It was about 8 years ago. I was interviewing Brian Basilico in the US for my podcast. He said, "You're in Australia. You've got to meet the Twitter guru, Keith Keller." He put us together. And then Keith and I have been friends for so many years. And you've been on my podcast too. So it's just fantastic the way that we
didn't even meet in the same country, do we? It was a random other person that introduced us.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Brian Basilico is not random. He's the bacon guy, but he's very nice. But I had never heard of you before because I didn't know Twitter. Yeah, that's right.
Just bloody brilliant. So, Deb, tell us about how people can contact you. Have you put your details in the private chat? Bravo Media. Tell me what that means and how we can contact you. Again, you're on mute.
Good thing, because my phone was ringing. How inappropriate. No, yes, thank you, Keith. This has really been a terrific show, very enlightening with everybody's input on Samantha, loved your input on Twitter Spaces. That's really exciting. Natasha, you've got some exciting work going on. Gail, it's great to see you again, and you're always doing some fantastic stuff. So it's just, and learning more about, how we're all interconnecting as this stuff is moving so quickly. So yes, my Twitter, I'm on all the time. So it's at Bravo Media One, and would love to connect with everybody here. And again, if we're going to take up the offer of maybe all going into a Twitter Spaces together to kind of sift that out, I'd be totally up for it. And again, thanks so very much. Pleasure being here.
Oh, no worries. Well, Samantha, tell us about what you're doing there and how we can indeed contact you for this lovely offer of doing a group sort of orientation for Twitter Spaces.
Oh, I'm like so excited to have all of us on one. I'm like thinking about how I'm going to all have you take turns on the co-host and try different features out. So I'm so excited, and I think we'll have a really great turnout. So we'll get on that. If you want to contact me, of course you can contact me through Twitter. You can contact me through LinkedIn. Either will work. Also, what's kind of cool is that even though a lot of us converse on Twitter, we will verify each other on LinkedIn. There's not a lot of space to put a personal profile or anything about your background. So the two in conjunction work really well together. For me, I want to go where I light up, and I just feel alive when I'm on Twitter right now. So that's my place. Is it the place that I'm looking for a market? I think the market discovered me on Twitter. So it's kind of the reverse of what we normally do. We usually decide on a market and then go towards it. And I, on the other hand, kind of put myself out there, and the market presented itself. So in my case, I've been doing this collaborative work with Philip Gogola with Digital Humanitarian and Social and Spaces for Good, and I'll be taking on a major role there. I'm also available for some strategic advising. I've traveled around the world and been around a lot of blocks, and with my tax background, I have a pretty strong understanding of how humans work. And my podcast, if you go to my Twitter, you'll see about my podcast. I have a podcast called Bold Perspectives.
It's a great video. You're so excited. You're so excited.
I'm just an excitable person. I like to get excited about helping people. I love helping people and like seeing them like grow from something or do something profound, or I don't know. I just love it. It's so much fun. So I get excited about it. So yeah, check out my Bold Perspectives podcast if you're interested.
I'll post that. You've got a really great video introducing your new podcast. I'll post that again today. So Eileen in Barrie, Canada, tell us a little bit about how we can contact you, and I've got your details here, so I'll punch those in now.
My mic on? There we go. Yeah.
You're on.
So you can definitely catch me. I mean, Twitter for me is, I call it the Vegas of platforms. It's always on. Something's always live and going on. So you can find me at Eileen Jan, EILEEN JAN at Twitter. Same as LinkedIn. It's the same. It's Eileen Jan. I have two Instagrams. You can find me as Eileen Jan. That's a little bit more private, or I have a current one opening up as lifestylecoach.ca, and so is my website. More importantly, one, thank you for having me, but I know that during this time, and I know what you're going through, and I hear a lot about this. I've been hearing a lot about it all over the world, Keith, with respect to people feeling locked down and depression. It is my banner as well, and I really believe in this. I hope that anybody's watching or listening that is feeling kind of down about the world or how your mental state is, ask for help. And if I'm not the person for you, there are a lot of people that are fitted for you. So please don't feel alone. You're not alone. We all have felt that way at some time or another. I really ask you to just reach out. There are a lot of kind people out there. And if you want me to, refer you to somebody else, if you're not comfortable with me, I would gladly refer you to somebody else. Yeah. Just, you're not alone. You're not alone.
The thing I love about what you've said there, and the thing I love about what we're doing here, is that everyone on this call has got the same heart. We're all coming from the place of giving what we know. Sure, we have to pay the rent and, we've got bills to pay. But the point is that we all have this servant leader mentality. We want to help the world. For me, it's LinkedIn, live streaming on LinkedIn and Twitter. For others, it's Twitter Spaces. For others, it might be a Twitter chat. Other people might do a blog. Other people might do speaking gigs in the city or go to a networking event and shake people's hands and have coffee. Remember that? I haven't done that for such a long time. But with that in mind, Gail, tell us
Yes.
about how you can we can contact you. Tell us a little bit about what you think this show might be about in 2 weeks, the Confessions of a 90s Networker. I'm so excited about doing that. I'm just so excited about doing that show.
I know. Short of having an 8-track in my car, yes, it's going to be fun and it's going to be funny, you know. I think when we do this Twitter Spaces thing, I think each of us should also present. So if there's 6 of us or 5 of us, we'll have 6 or 5 or 6 Mondays cut out, and we'll teach each other what we do.
Oh, wow. Good.
I think that would be wonderful. For me, I'm a media shapeshifter. I call myself the celebritizer. I work with CEOs, showbiz pros, authors, experts, entrepreneurs, and I teach them how to tell it to sell it on TV, radio, print, podcast. Who are you? What are you selling? Why do I need it? And where can I get it? I'm the author of the book Interview Tactics, How to Survive the Media Without Getting Clobbered, The Insider's Guide to Giving a Killer Interview. I am a news correspondent from ABC News, Sky News, and BBC, and I've interviewed over 15,000 celebrities and newsmakers. So that's kind of my platform, kind of crunched in between 2 pieces of bread.
Yeah.
There. So
yeah. I love what you've been on the show so many times, and every single time we always have so much fun, and you've got so much good stuff to share because we're coming from the right place, aren't we?
Oh, you're definitely coming from the right place. I mean, I think it was Eileen who was talking about knowing where she was going. Thank God I never knew where I was going. I never would have gotten anywhere. There is such bliss in ignorance. It's unbelievable. But the nutrition of that is you keep your eyes open, your ears open, get really in touch with your internal system, because if something starts resonating, you don't want to think it's indigestion. Yeah. You want to know it's the universe tapping you on the shoulder and say, go talk to that person, read that article. Thank God I didn't do it. I knew nothing. And I was in broadcasting on radio, and there were only 2 women, and both of us were part-time. And I got to tell you something, it sucked. I mean, my job was great and everything, but the whole woman thing was just, yeah, that's me. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's me. No, I'm not going to go there with you. It's okay.
So you say stay, and look, that would apply as much now as it did then. Stay open. Don't lock yourself down to any one platform.
No, never. Have as many boyfriends as you can handle. Have as many passions as you can fit, in your head. Here's a really great takeaway. Say yes to everything, because 90% of it is not going to happen.
Wow.
And if it does, just think of the karmic benefits of it, because you get to call a friend or a coworker and say, listen, this came up for me. I can't do this right now because I'm doing something else. But how about if I change your life with this?
So that's a really good point. I want to pick up on what just happened this week. Someone in Nigeria contacted me at 9:00 my time and says, "Oh, look, I've got a show on Nigerian TV, the equivalent of BBC in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Can you come on my show at 7 p.m. on a Friday night and just give us the goss on what's happening with Twitter?" Now, I actually said no, because it was, first of all, it would be 2 a.m. in Nigeria, and second of all, I know someone who lives there, and I just gave it to them. And they loved it, because it's their time zone and they get the kudos, and they're going to be talking to local people. So you're right. Say yes to everything. And if you can't do it,
it comes back 10 times. It comes back 10 times. Just hand it over. You brought it in, but it wasn't for you. You have to give it away. And a lot of people will not do that. And that's okay, but that's not the path I'm going down. Yeah. And you know what's really interesting? I meet people from 20 years ago who tell me that I've done that. I have no memory of it. I don't remember any of it. But you know what I say? thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. That was really nice. I'm glad it worked out for you. Thank God.
Well, it's a good principle to follow. So
Yeah.
we're well over the hour, but I'll just wrap it up.
You wanted to talk about the 90s show? Did you want to talk about that for a second?
It is going to be a lot of fun. It's 2 weeks from today, and it's basically taken from the premise that, what if you're sick of all this stuff? What if you just can't be bothered keeping up? Like, I have a Samsung S7. I'm proud to say I've got a Samsung S7. It still works. I've got a Mazda 3 from 2012. Still goes.
I still have a landline. Are you kidding me?
So we're going to have a bit of fun with that. What are you like? The laptop was invented in 1992.
Mm-hmm.
1992 was the laptop was invented, and I still use one every day. Not the same one. The radio or CD player was invented in 1982, right? And I still have one in my car. And this will spin you out. This is my radio show from when I was 16 in 1982. Right, so we've all got a history, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to have a bit of fun with that. Is that your take on that? Is that how you see the show?
Bring your sins with you. Bring your sins with you. We will absolve you of all of them. Them. We just want to hear them because we want to laugh our asses off.
Yeah,
seriously.
Yeah.
But I want to know why. I could tell you why I have a landline. It's a funny story. But I have a CD player in my car. So I get it. Because you know why? CDs in the thrift store are like 50 cents now. So I'm buying all the CDs that I didn't get when they came out.
Yeah, they're less than $1. So we're constantly moving the idea around. This show is every week now at 10 a.m. Melbourne time, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane. It's 8 p.m. at Eastern time, so that's Toronto and Canada, and it's Barrie, Ontario, and Ottawa, and New York and Miami. It's 5 p.m. in LA, in Vancouver, 6 p.m. in Alberta. So we're trying to bring together every week a global group of people just to share the love. We're in lockdown. We know what it feels like. Yeah. And we're desperate. We're desperate for some connection. So this is what this show's about. It's called Virtually Unlimited TV. If you want to know more, I went and bought that URL, virtuallyunlimitedtv.com. All the shows are there. All the upcoming shows are there. Please contact me if you want to come on one show, or if you want me to run a show around what you're doing. But today's show has been called What Are the Best Networking Sites? I'll be doing some highlights from this a bit later on. And I wanted to thank all the guests for coming on, and we'll see you next week.